Okay, everybody. So let's get started. I figured we get started today by talking about stuff that really annoys us, or stuff that really annoys me. Now, I know that's not the best way to start a conversation, but for the purposes of this class and at least today's lecture, I figured it might be a nice way to understand what bad design really means. So I brought in something to show you, and I do it at the risk of you all realizing how totally technologically inept I actually am. So hold your judgment, please. But this is an example of something that bothers me every day. It is the key fob that I use to access my apartment. I don't know if you all have ever experienced anything like this. You can see it's got a little conductor here that connects to my door and ultimately opens the door or releases the lock. It's got a nice little thumbprint here, so I know where to put my finger when I'm trying to do it. The problem is it never works. I can't tell you how many people I've actually met in my apartment building by watching them struggle and me having to walk over and lament in their experience and then help them understand the perfect way to hold this key fob so that you can get into your apartment and unlock the door or lock the door, whatever the case may be. Regardless, I just wonder, why is it so hard? Did they not test this? Did they not ask anyone if anyone else had a difficult time using it? One other thing I wanted to show you, something that irks me, is this. I think you can probably recognize what it is just by me holding it. It's the trusty USB port. And you may know what I'm about to say, and that is that the USB port is a great device, except for you cannot tell which way is up. So you can't tell until you're jamming it in there and you're realizing that the USB is actually not going into the port, and you're probably breaking something. Now, I will admit that at some point they added this nice little symbol, I don't know if you can see it, to the top side of the USB, and that's great, except when you're trying to make a connection in the dark or behind a TV, as I was doing earlier today, and so certainly that doesn't have any use for me when I can't see what I'm doing. Okay, one last example, and this is probably the most embarrassing, and it is the fact that I've only recently upgraded to the iPhone 10, which you'll see here. My daughter is quite proud of me for coming into this century. I upgraded from the iPhone 6 Plus or whatever it is, so this was quite a leap to go to the 10. But something I have been annoyed with in the past couple of days that I've had it, and I'm not sure if you've had this experience, but it's very simple, and that is, when I'm reaching into my bag and I'm picking up the phone, I'm bringing it over to me very quickly, and I'm immediately swiping up to see, turn on, let me see what calls I've missed, or student emails I haven't responded to, only to find it's not working, and it takes me swiping a couple times, tapping here and there, only to realize I picked it up upside down. Now, I'm not sure why it has to be this side in order for me to swipe up. Oh, needs my face. There you go. But, certainly by the design of the screen itself, you can't tell which way is up or down until the screen comes on. Small things, but somehow they make a big difference in my life. Maybe I've got too much time on my hands, but I will say that it's those little things that just get under my skin, not to mention make me feel like an idiot. The question I have is, and the question we should all have, is why do bad designs like this, make it into the marketplace? And how do they happen? And I think what you'll find from, or at least what I would like to argue based on some of the readings and some of the initial readings that you've done so far, is that these poor designs exist that way because someone, whoever was responsible for the design, did not take the time to understand the user's needs in the context of the use case. Right, so they assumed that they knew what the user needed just like my key fob, just like the iPhone, and they didn't take the time to go out there and empathize with the user or test it. And so I will also mention that aside from, having simply a negative impact on my psyche and destroying my self-confidence, bad design certainly can have a negative impact, obviously, on the companies that produce them. And how is that the case? Well, these poor designs can result in, lost revenue, inflated R&D expenses, and ultimately increased risk for product success. So if you're asking what kinds of risk we're talking about, this can include, loss of customer loyalty, in some cases safety and litigation risks, financial risks due to excess research and development, rework of a product, company reputation, to name a few. And so you may ask, okay, well, if these designs are so difficult to do, well, isn't that what human factors are for? I mean, I believe I just took a class in human factors only a couple semesters ago, more than a couple semesters ago. But didn't we learn about how to design for human needs and human use? And I would say, yes, you're right. Human factors experts can contribute a great deal to good product design. But the problem is that is not the only answer. A human factors expert is not the only solution to a good design. In fact, you have to understand the end user and his environment in which they'll be using the product. And often this takes more than just a human factors expert. This takes a team of experts in a large, with a diverse field of experience, each one having the depth needed to contribute to the design. In fact, Tim Brown talked about that in the textbook earlier. So the problem I really have is often with companies who are initiating or who are engaging in innovation and new product design, in the sense that they're willing to invest in the research and development, they're willing to invest in the new technologies, but often they are not willing to invest in what I would call the homework of understanding the user in their environment. In particular, in my experience, I've often seen companies just say, you're the expert. You've worked for this company for 15 years plus. You should know the answer. When in fact that's often insufficient and produces designs like this.